er jeg på plass i Finland for å besøke Remedy. Jeg har vært på hundrevis av sånne presseturer som dette er. Og tenker jo at det viktigste er at man kommer hit som journalist, ikke sant? Men jeg er jo egentlig ikke alene her. Det vil si om 20 minutter lander Tanya. Jeg krysser fingrene for at hun beholder på en måte den samme typen profesjonalitet da.
Nå det er 3 degrees of separation fra Sandlake også. Tenk hvis vi blir bestevenner på den turen her.
Der kommer hun altså, legenden fra Norge. Tanya Pettersen i Finland. Hei. Hyggelig å se deg.
Hei, i like måte.
Har det vært en bra tur?
Det har det.
Fikk du sove i natt?
Ja, det gjorde jeg faktisk. Gjorde du?
Ja, det gikk helt greit.
Men det er bra. Ja. Åh, det er så gøy da.
Du har forberedt deg, Tanya.
Jeg har det, vet du. For her, vet du, jeg sitter og sett på videoer, jeg sitter og researcher.
Herregud.
Og liksom ting som er nytt, og det hva som skal komme, hva vi kan forvente oss. Og alt mulig sånn. Jeg begynte å liksom, skrive ned spørsmål og mine tanker og sånn. Så det er ingen som skal si at jeg ikke kommer forberedt, for å si det sånn.
Har du sett Seven?
Ja.
Det ligner litt på de der notatbøkene som de finner i leiligheten hans.
Det er litt sånn en himst, men det er gøy da.
Jeg er imponert over hvor godt forberedt du er, Tanya.
The FBC locked me in that cell for years and forgot about me. The hiss, it was a way out.
People can change. The past doesn't matter. Who are you today?
Ja, bak oss her også, Tanya, er den døra. Vi skal inn og spille Control Resonant.
Det er det.
Vi har sett en trailer som blåste...
Fletta oss.
Yes!
Rett og slett.
Jeg har ikke fletter engang, og de ble blåst av.
Det var helt amazing.
Ja. Altså, vi har jo et veldig nært forhold til Remedy begge to. Mitt første Remedy-spill var jo Max Payne. Det anmeldte jeg for VG back in the day, og haglet med 6'er og 5'er og sånt. Og er veldig glad i de universene de bygger, og det har jo definitivt du også. Hva tenker du nå? Nå skal du spille det?
Altså, nå skal jeg spille det her, og så er det ingen som har fått røre det før på måten vi får gjøre det nå.
Det er sant det.
Så at dette her er en sånn der ut av kroppen opplevelse. Så jeg gleder meg så sykt.
Jeg er kjempespent.
Ja.
Tror du vi klarer å ta, det er jo en bosskamp her og der litt igjen.
Og så får vi en advarsel om at dette er vanskelig.
Ikke sant? Ja.
Så det er vanskelig, men vi får litt hjelp da, hvis vi sitter fast.
Ja, og så sitter vi ved siden av hverandre, så nå er race, it's on, Tanya. It's on.
Ja, nå må ta tida.
I see the building. I'm on my way.
I don't suppose you have any idea what the fuck is happening to the city?
It's called the hiss.
Oh, you do know.
It's a viral resonance. Spreads rapidly, takes over anyone in its path. She's gone.
Where does it happen to my team?
And so for me, the heart of Remedy is like the storytelling, the weird, the twists and the turns, and not being bold, you know. So what is Remedy's? What is the heart of Remedy to you?
I think having the confidence to be different, I think, is crucial. Not just for the sake of like the artistry of what we're doing to create something that is interesting, but I think it's just the reality of like what we talk about, the landscape and so on, like standing out is the most valuable thing we can do. And looking at the heart of the kind of a creativity, I do think that there's this sense of expression and respect that we have towards other mediums as well, like, you know, music and art and, you know, and of course movies and TV and so on, but it kind of goes beyond that, like to dance and, you know, these kind of other creative forms, things that evoke emotions that have been like existed for hundreds, or if not for thousands of years as a part of human culture. So games today, what I love about them is that there's this sense of participation that you have with the experience, right? Like it's kind of an interactive. You're part of the experience in a way. It's on you how you navigate through these different types of things. Whereas like many other forms of entertainment tend to be passive, like you kind of just watch something. But here with games, you have to participate. And what I think is interesting about Remedy is that we look at these different art forms and think about how do we integrate all of those into an interactive experience.
Yeah.
Like for instance, you've seen, for instance, in some of the footage, like, you know, there's one of the bosses is this kind of a dancer type of a character and so on. So we used an actual choreographer, like, you know, who we kind of taught through, like, how this character moves, what is the actual past that they had as a dancer, how it influenced them as a monster and so on. So there's this kind of a layering of different forms of artistry that we take and then reshape into a game experience. So that's something that I think we're really good at, and there's many different manifestations of that in this game besides that one.
Working on a plan. Use the cycle checker. Just like old times. Remember that game console without the person's
Jesse, I remember.
I kind of wanted to try and ask a question about the Remedy connected universe and how they connect. Because both Alan Wake and Control, they do a lot of time manipulation, kind of. You play a lot with time and timelines, right? How do you keep track of it as you expand the universe with Control Resonant and perhaps everything that comes after?
Right. It is, of course, difficult. We have a philosophy, or like a way of looking at it, and it's a tricky thing to balance because as a studio we're not like massive. We're not like a huge organization and so on, which I think is there's risk to it, but there's also, I think, a lot of benefits, and this kind of a creative freedom, I think, is really important to us. Like every team that kind of chooses to create something, they are not like beholden to some kind of like a bigger thing that is defined from above, that the team has like room to maneuver. So that's important to us, that there's that sense of freedom creatively. But still, it's all part of a kind of a larger world, like a universe that we're trying to build. And so there are these kind of there's this like a sentiment and approach that every team needs to be mindful of. Like if you use characters that already exist somewhere else, then there's a certain kind of respect that you have to have towards the character and so on. And then kind of see how to kind of find ways to utilize their existing kind of a story and so on, how to integrate that into a new story and so on. And then now that we have different kind of teams, and of course there's a lot of people that kind of move in between the projects and so on. So it's not like they are these monuments of like one team and they never do any other things. We actually have a lot of people like fluctuating between the projects. So that's also like a thing that enables a lot of this kind of let's say knowledge sharing almost happen automatically. Like somebody who worked on something in Alan Wake 2 and now kind of moves on to the Control Resonant team can bring a little bit of Alan Wake with them into this experience and so on. So
cool.
There's this kind of organic way that, you know, it happens everywhere. But having said all of that, what we're trying to do is that every game that we do release, they are like self-contained, as in it tells its own story. It has its own beginning and end. It stands on its own feet, and it's not dependent upon something that exists outside. Yes, there are connections. There's this kind of elements that feel like when you step into the games that we do, that they have a bigger existence. But still, as you play through the game, it has its own story that you can go through, and you can be content and happy that, oh cool, I got to experience this type of a thing. But still, of course, there's this feeling, but like what about this and so on. And then I realized that there are these other Remedy games that tells the story about that as well. And then you can go and experience that, and you can see how they belong in the same universe. So we're trying to have like that kind of approach where every game can be its own story, but they're all connected to a bigger idea. And sometimes, of course, that takes different shapes and like turns, depending on what are the different characters, what are their motivations, and so on. And I think that approach is needed so that there can be that kind of a creative independence per team and so on. And then, Yeah, and how we navigate this is, of course, very complicated because we're not a huge studio, and we have 3 different projects, or lanes, we call them, and each one is working on a game at any given time, but they're then organized in such a way that they don't overlap too much. Like, we don't try to launch 2 games at the same time. It's more like in every year we try to get something out.
Yeah.
And then they're like layered on top of each other in such a way that allows us to coordinate things and pay attention and make sure that they kind of let's say like respect and are aware of others and so on. So it creates this nicer, larger kind of experience.
Zoe, I think I found the thing that killed those hiss.
What is your stance on the use of AI in video games, and what is Remedy's stance on that?
Right. So with Control Resonant, like, there's no use of AI at all, and so on. That's been like a thing that we decided early on, and it's not kind of a part of the kind of approach that we have in the studio right now. Of course, it's a complicated world, and what future kind of brings is like nobody knows yet. That is something that we pay attention to and try to learn from and so on, and understand what's the right kind of way to navigate that. Either way, I don't think, personally, this is my personal opinion, you shouldn't replace people with AI. That's just a bad idea overall. Like, I don't think that leads to anything that is like sensible, feasible, or interesting as an end result in the first place. So I don't think I think it's a mistake to think like that, and I don't think that's like not at all what Remedy thinks.
What I think is really interesting about Control and Control Resonant is that they seem like 2 very different games, but at the same time similar in their own ways. And I noticed in other interviews that you talked about the opposition of the siblings, which I thought was really interesting, because Control is like its own game, like you say, because of Jesse. And then you have Control Resonant as its own game again because of Dylan.
Yes.
Which I think is really, really interesting. And that's why I had some questions about like the weapons and kind of the things, the tiny threads that may or may not connect them. So I was thinking a lot about the aberrant, the weapon that Dylan uses. It morphs a lot, kind of much like Jesse's gun. And also the connection to board. And also the connection to Polaris. So I was like wondering, will Dylan talk to Polaris? Is there a connection there?
Right. Love it. Like, this is a really like deep dive into the lore of like Control and so on. So I'm gonna geek out a bit on that front.
Yes, please do.
So Polaris is like an expression of Jesse's power in the first game, and what happened in the past with Dylan and Jesse is, of course, laid in mystery. Like, you know, when they were kids, they encountered like strange things as they found the projector in the landfill and so on, and a lot of strange things happened, and it affected them both in strange ways.
Right.
And they carry that within themselves, like as they kind of grow into adults, and both of them, as said, like have lived 2 very different lives. You know, Jesse, after the situation in Ordinary, the small town that they lived in, there's this big parental crisis, all the adults disappeared and so on. And the FBC came in, Dylan was taken, and Jesse escaped. And ever since then, they've had these two different paths through life. And Jessie, as we kind of see her for the first time in the first Control game, we can hear her talk to the Polaris. And it was a very interesting kind of a storytelling device, because what was important to me was that we don't necessarily do narration in a traditional sense, like, let's say Max Payne, that you hear the thoughts of the character, but it's Jessie talking to somebody, and it affected this kind of a way of talking that she has, that she's almost talking to a friend as you're like listening to her and so on. That was a really important like a device that we use from narrative kind of a perspective, but also from a stylistic perspective, and it gave a shape to like a part of her. And we actually have a deliberate choice now with Dylan, that there is no inner voice. You don't get to hear him think or talk in the same way as Jessie. And that's a deliberate choice, because I want him to be a bit mysterious, like what's going on within his mind and so on. And he gets his self-reflection through others and so on. Like he hears voices in his head, though, like the board, talks to him, as you kind of start the experience and so on. And then he kind of his emotions, the way he feels and so on. I wanted to feel really like more human experience, from a perspective of that hearing what the character thinks almost dehumanizes them in a way, like they become too easy to understand. And I want Dylan to feel a bit more tougher, to really kind of get what's going on within his mind, and it gets expressed how he talks with others. Anyway, Jessie has Polaris, Dylan has the board in a way, and that's and the aberrant is like a manifestation of the board. And Dylan does talk to the board in a way, but he talks it like openly, whereas Jessie, we're the way of thinking. And what was important to me is that, again, we don't do a copy of a character that we already have. I wanted Dylan to be his own person, with his own approach, or own philosophy, on his own way of looking at himself and others and so on. And as he navigates through this journey, he of course learns a lot about himself, and whatever, let's say, confidence that he needs to build, he will do, but he will go through a lot of tribulations and face a lot of challenges to be able to really do that. What was important to me was that when we look at Dylan, he doesn't see himself as a hero, and I wanted to also maybe avoid also the feeling of this kind of a classic stoic hero type who kind of comes in already, everybody when they see them for the first time, that that's a hero and they will do heroic things. I want Dylan to be a bit more uncertain, like, who am I? What's my place in the world? Others see me as a monster. How I can never be a hero. It's almost like the feeling that he has, that inner voice that we don't want to say out loud, but it kind of comes through in how he behaves and so on. Yet he wants to help. He wants, and he's ready to risk his life to be able to save others. So he is a hero, but he doesn't feel like one. And that's an interesting kind of a contradiction in the character that we kind of explore early on. And I think it makes him more human and more interesting from that standpoint.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to the siblings and their relationship, I try to find that other side of the coin, as I spoke before, and I think they both have their own journeys that they must take.
Main probe has been released from the diving belt. Install the relays and get out.
From Control, I felt like Dylan was kind of a blank slate. You know only the things that Jessie tells you, or tells herself, or And it's really interesting to kind of be a part of that journey of finding out who Dylan is. And I was wondering that he was locked up in the oldest house for a long time. Do you can you say if we perhaps maybe get some flashbacks, or Do we ever get to know what happened to him while he was there?
We will dive into his past in many different ways. I think for us to be able to experience or understand where he needs to go, I do think it's important we show where he's coming from, you know, and that's something that I think is integral in regards of his journey. I'm navigating this carefully because I'm gonna spoil too much, but he knows who he has been, and he struggles with how can he be at peace with himself. He wants to, and this is something that is unsaid, but it's the feeling that he has. How can I take control over my own life? That's the big question in front of him, because he's never been in control of his own life. He's either been like, you know, kind of primed as a kid to be the next leader for the bureau. That went wrong. He's been possessed by the hiss, like literally taken over by supernatural force, and now he's been in a coma. So he's been trapped by his own mind. So it is a difficult, complicated journey that he must now take to be able to kind of find that place where he needs to go, like find his own fate. And yeah, for him to be able to do that, he needs to face his past and for him to be able to move on.
Right.
You don't want to end up like Meg, do you?
What? What happened to Meg?
And I also found the Threshold kids really interesting and kind of spooky and creepy.
Yeah.
But that, if I understand this correctly, it was kind of a way for those in the oldest house to teach Dylan about whatever has happened. Will we get to see more Threshold kids?
I can't comment on that, sorry. But
I had to try.
Threshold kids, I think, is a good expression of the warped view that the Bureau has upon the world. They thought that, in a way, that, hey, here's a nice way to teach the kids on, like, you know, what's actually at stake and what's happening. And of course, it ends up being creepy, unsettling, like weird, and probably more scary than fun. But it is kind of a side to the Bureau and the messed up nature that they have. There are like psychology and way of like what they think is the right way to do your thing, but you can already sense that that's pretty messed up, like you know what they did and what it did to those kids at the time and so on. So definitely.
Absolutely, and I think it's funny because we had some of those kids' TV shows in Norway too that really resembles Threshold Kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's horrifying.
It was horrifying, right?
Pumpel
and Pilt. It was horrible. And it was super scary.
Yes.
And I don't know why they sent that on kids' TV, but
But that is, and we are like, I don't know, like the one that you spoke about. Sorry, that name was?
Pumpel og Pilt.
Pumpel and Pilt. Okay, all right. But like we've seen examples like, you know, kids shows from like, I don't know, 70s Russia or Germany and so on, like, and they're like really, really strange, like, you know, at the time and sometimes really kind of upsetting and so on. So yeah, that was a huge part of the inspiration.
Zoe? I'm here!
Are you reading me?
I read you! Can you hear me?
I don't know if you can hear the sun, but we lost the bell.
The sinkhole shifted and closed up on us.
Zoe! I'm here! Hello?
Hvordan synes du det gikk, liksom du som bare satt og kikket på? For jeg er jo sånn, jeg klarer ikke å skjønne om dette her gikk bra eller ikke.
Du er pokkeren så god i engelsk. Og så uttale og sånn, du snakker engelsk som om du var engelsk. Jeg stokker ofte på ord og glemmer liksom hva det engelske ordet er for ting jeg har tenkt å si og sånne ting når jeg gjør intervju på engelsk. Jeg var bare flawless, Tanya.
Oh, thank you.
Og så synes jeg det var veldig spennende å sitte og følge med på praten. Jeg ble jo litt sånn fokusert på at jeg må flytte litt på kamera og litt utsnitt og sånne ting.
Det tekniske,
ja. Men det var kjempespennende å høre på dere. Og det jeg synes var ekstra gøy var at vi hadde snakket litt på forhånd også, at du hadde sett litt intervju med han Mikael, hvor han hadde vært litt reservert.
Ja.
Jeg synes vi fikk han litt ut av skallet. Eller du gjorde det, Tanya. Du gjorde det.
Jeg måtte dra deg litt inn i det også, ikke sant? Sånn, det var bra. Sånn, det var gøy. Så bare for å få alle til å le litt og slappe litt av. Og, ja, rett og slett. Så nei, jeg fikk han til å smile, og da jeg smiler og le, og da er jeg fornøyd.
Wow.
It's way too much.
Is it?
It's too much.
No, I love it. I think it's great. I wish I would be able, like, my handwriting is terrible. It's just absolutely ugly. It's just, you know, I write notes all the time as well, like on Post-its, and then I read them after, it's like, I have no idea what this is saying, like, it's just throw it away.
So you have to, like, ask someone, what did I write?
Yeah, like, can you explain this to me?
Yeah.
Show the Post-it.
What do you think it says?
Yes, that would explain a lot, actually, now that I think about it. Look at the end result, like, what the hell happened? Yeah, this is what we got, and it's based on all the notes.
Right.
Nobody understood it.
That's why you made this instead of that. That's not what I...
Okay, so we are rolling.
Awesome.
I'm doing a safety recording just in case. Can you just clap a few times? Yep. So whenever you're ready.
Okay, so only me, not you clap?
We clap together, like. Yes, not weird at all, like, let's just start with clapping. Like.
Da var arbeidsdagen over. Vi har vært på Remedy, Tanya. Vi så Sam Lake.
Vi så Sam Lake, og tydeligvis Poets of the Fall, altså bandet.
Ja, men vi var liksom så fokusert på Sam Lake begge to, så vi var sånn...
Ja, så plutselig så sier han ene som også er der, bare sånn, ja, nei, det de møtte han, altså som Sam Lake møtte, var jo Poets of the Fall, og jeg var sånn, var det?
Ja, vi spurte selvfølgelig da, om det var mulig å få en liten selfie hvor vi drikker kaffe med Sam Lake.
Ja.
Og det tørte de ikke å spørre om.
Nei, jeg tror han virket ganske opptatt.
Ja, han gjorde det.
Ja, de ville ikke presse seg på, forståelig nok.
Ja.
Så, ja.
Men vi fikk jo spilt ganske mye Control Resonant, Tanya.
Vi gjorde det, altså.
Og jeg synes det var litt morsomt, vi satt jo ved siden av hverandre og spilte. Og jeg kikket over på deg hele tiden. Og så du var kommet mye lenger enn meg. Og ikke bare det. Gjett hvem det var som kom seg til slutten på den demoen først. I et rom fullt av svette mannenerder. Var det Tanya?
Det var meg, det. Det var liksom, når jeg prøvde å følge litt med på de andre, og jeg tror ikke det var noen andre som fikk den der thank you for playing-skjermen.
Nei, jeg fikk den ikke. Jeg rage-quitta på den bossen du tok og bare fiste videre fra.
Og da svetta jeg ganske godt selv, altså.
Ja.
Den var ganske hard. Men det er bra. Det er bra, det er gøy.
Ja, det var veldig gøy.
Så, ja.
Og så har jeg hørt på opptaket.
Ja, har du?
Det ble kjempebra.
Det ble bra.
Lyden ble bra.
Nice.
Lyden ble bra, da er det greit, da fikser vi alt. Lyden ble fin.
Ja, men da er vi good. Ja. Nei, jeg føler at jeg er på veldig sånn Cloud 9. Dette her var så gøy.
Ja, det var kjempegøy.
Jeg kommer til å ta med dette resten av året og være så det.
Ja. Nei, det har vært ordentlig morsomt å være på tur med deg, Tanya. Jeg gleder meg til i morgen også, så jeg gleder meg til å klippe dette her.
Ja.
Du var så flink til å stille spørsmål, og kom masse bra ut av han fyren her, altså.
Det er veldig, veldig hyggelig.
Ja.
Så bra. Ja.
Så nei. Er det noe mer vi skal legge til fra Helsinki for denne gang?
Hilsener fra Helsinki. Dette er en bra by, altså.
Ja, det er det.
Så anbefales hvis folk har lyst til å ta tur.
Ja.
Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Oh no!
Can I ask one short thing?
Yeah, one short one.
Ahti, is he back?
That was my final question.
Yes. Sorry, we can't comment on Ahti.
Oh.
Yes.